Hello, 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 YouTube. I have one of my really good friends on here, and I am so excited because she has a phenomenal testimony. My girl is out here flourishing, living her best quarantine
Oh,
medical school life right now.
ooh,
And I'm just going to go ahead and introduce her, and we're going to jump into it. And if you guys have questions, go ahead and drop some of those comments below. If you have any encouragement, anything that you want to add as we go along, just go ahead and drop it, and we'll be getting back to you all. So I'm just going to go ahead and, without further ado, I want to introduce Miss Morgan. Hey.
hey, how you doing?
Look at both of us. How you
I
doing?
know.
So yes, so how is quarantine life right now?
Oh man, quarantine life has been something else. So I actually have been at home in Atlanta since March when my master's program classes went online. Um, right before quarantine happened, there was a really big tornado in Nashville. And so between the tornado and then quarantine, I was like, let me go home. I need to relax. So I've been at home in Atlanta since March, which is weird because it's like I was off, apartment living in, Nashville. So it's been okay. It has its moments. It's weird
Mhm.
being at home and not being able to like see my friends, see family,
Yes,
do
and
my
be
normal at home
classmates.
routine. Exactly, trying to do Zoom study sessions and FaceTime this, FaceTime that. So it's been very interesting to say the least. But at this point, I'm used to it. I got my little home gym set up because I
Yes,
can't go.
get them workouts in, girl, because I didn't gain a good quarantine 15. I'm just saying.
Okay, I'm trying to keep mine off.
Okay. I know that is right. So go ahead, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your background as far as like where you went to college, what you
Yeah.
majored in.
Okay, sure. So, I went to college at the illustrious North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride. So, so I went to A&T, and then after that, I came back to Atlanta for 3 years. Had my gap year here in Atlanta for 3 years, and then in 2016, I went to attended Hampton University for a master's in medical science. And then after that, I got my master's in health sciences from Meharry Medical College over this past year. And then now I'm an M1 at Meharry. So
Okay,
um,
all right, go
HBCU
girl.
3 times.
ATT,
Yeah.
Tuskegee in his thing too. TU,
Hey, okay.
somebody in there, but we always give love
I
to our
know.
HBCU. So even though you
Always,
didn't go to Tuskegee,
always.
it's okay. It's all
It's
right. We
okay.
love
And you're
you.
not an Aggie, so
All
we
right though.
okay.
All right.
Right.
So, question, going back a little bit, I know you said so you went to
Yes.
North Carolina AT&T, and then you ended up having a gap year. Can you tell us a little bit about what a gap year is and what you did during that time?
Sure. So I always wanted to go to medical school, and in my mind, a gap year wasn't anything I thought I would have to do. So essentially, it's a gap year is if you need. Sometimes it's voluntary, sometimes it's involuntary, but it's time in between undergrad and professional school or graduate school. Some students take gap years between after high school, between college. So it's just time off from schooling. Like I said, it's either voluntary, involuntary, if you need to brush up in something. And it's time to do whatever you want to do. I was able to do a lot. My gap year ended up being 3 years. So I had gap
So you had
years.
some gap years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I enjoyed them. I did a lot during my gap years, which I'm very grateful for. I started 2 businesses. And well, let me say I did 2 businesses because I really don't do them anymore. But I had a meal prep business, and then I had like a custom, like bedazzle kind of business. So I did those here in Atlanta. I worked for the Falcons for 3 years, which I absolutely loved. I had time to coach high school volleyball alongside my high school volleyball coach for those 3 years. I went on a mission trip to South Africa. So
Yes.
I did a lot during my gap year. So I mean, some people work, some people do research, some people do nothing. But I was like taking these gap years because during that time I was studying for my Mcat off and on. During a couple of times I took them during my gap year. So it was time. It was time well spent.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I definitely will say you did a lot. So I remember
I
those
did a lot.
years. You
I
was
met
out
you
here
during my
flourishing.
gap years, actually.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is so amazing. And just a little bit about how we met. We actually met
Yes.
at one of our mutual friends going away. She was doing,
Yes.
what was it, Teach Away?
She was, yeah. She was going to Abu Dhabi
Abu
to
Dhabi,
teach.
yep.
Yep. Yep. And we met
Again,
at
we
the
met
going
at a
away party.
party. Yes,
Yes.
yes. And we instantly connected. Like,
We
'cause back
did.
then I wasn't in med school yet either. So I was trying to get into med school. I had taken the MCAT several times, which y'all know my
Ooh,
story. So I had
yep.
taken it
Look, I
several
know.
times, and I was just encouraging her, like, girl, you got this.
Hmm.
You better keep going. Take that thing again.
Yes.
Yes. So
Telling you. Yes.
yes, and now you are, where are you at again? Let them know again. I know we see it on the shirt.
I know. Yes, I had to represent. Yes. So I am a first year medical student at Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee. One of
Yes.
the second oldest HBCU. Yeah. So
Yeah, so
I
she's
love it.
out here flourishing in these black,
Yeah.
these M1 streets, for sure, for sure.
Ooh, yes.
So yeah, so how, like, when did you know, at what age did you know that you wanted to be a doctor?
Yeah, so I probably was like 6 or 7 when I realized that both of my both of my grandmothers passed away from breast cancer when I was younger, but I was especially close to my maternal grandmother.
Hmm.
And so I used to always kind of like be her doctor, help her with her medicines and things she couldn't do. And so she started calling me Dr. Morg. And it kind of stuck. All my family members called me that. So she kind of like spoke that. And then just as I grew older, like especially like when she passed away, I was at that inquisitive age where I was like, well, my grandmother had doctors and she died.
Hmm.
What happened? So I was a little bit angry or kind of upset about doctors. At that age, I was like, oh, they didn't do their job. What happened? Doctors supposed to help and take care of people, save lives. My grandmother died. So I became a little bit angry. And then so when I would go to my pediatrician appointments, I would ask all types of questions. What y'all doing? How you do this?
Hmm.
Why you do that? And so through that, I became like a positive inquisitive, like, oh, this is cool. And so I kind of started liking it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my pediatrician appointments. And so that was kind of like the foundation of it. And then when I got older, I had one year where I had like 7 or 8 family members pass away. And I was like, what is going
Mm.
on?
Yeah,
And
that's a lot.
so, yeah, as I got older, it was just one of those things where I was able to learn that majority of them died from preventable diseases through lack of education, not trusting their physicians, living in rural areas and not wanting to take that hour drive to their doctor. So all these different things. And then, so it kind of started to snowball. And I was like, okay, this is something, I want to do to give back to minorities on multiple levels. So yeah, that's kind of where it started, and it just continued. I then, with the help of my mom at that early age, just making sure I got into math and science summer programs, and then when I got in high school, college, able to, then begin to do that on my own. I was able to continue to pour into that desire for healthcare. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So it seems like you definitely have a lot of like family ties and just community
Yeah.
ties to medicine. So that leads me to my next question. What do you have an idea what you want to specialize in as far as medicine goes?
Yes. So this is like something that's been, I think God has just been kind of leading me through my journey. I've been able to kind of get to this. So I initially was like, oh, I want to do oncology. And then I was like, no, I'm too much of a water bag. And then I was like, I love kids. And I was like, well, maybe I'll do pediatric oncology. And I was like, no, I would definitely be crying all over
Every
everything.
day, okay?
So then over the years, growing up, I lived in 3 different cities, 2 in Florida, and then moving to Atlanta when I was younger as well. I loved my pediatricians. I had amazing, they answered all my questions. When I didn't want them to do any type of like, when I didn't like the throat swab, they sometimes didn't. They were good with giving me shots. I was like, okay, I kind of like y'all. But my biggest thing was the rapport that they built with me. And I'm very big on relationships. And so I was like, okay, I really love kids. So it was always pediatrics. I never wanted to do anything else. And so then over the years, it kind of through my journey, it began to get more specific. So
Mm-hmm.
now I do want to do pediatrics still, but I want to specifically do adolescent medicine through different coaching volleyball, working with
Love
teenagers like
it.
at my church. Yeah, I love that age group.
Yeah.
And so I really can connect with that age group and being able to talk to them, outside of, without their parents in the room, just to really be able to get to the nitty gritty of like what they need and just be able to have them to be able to confide in me. And so while it does take an extra 3-year fellowship, where I'm just like, ooh, that's long. But I really, I really, really, really want to subspecialize in adolescent medicine.
Okay, I love
Yeah.
it. And knowing you, I
Thank
think
you.
that adolescent medicine is perfect for you. You love the kids. I love the kids too. That's why I'm only teaching high school kids because everybody else, I need your
I know. Oof. Yeah,
So,
that's true.
no, I love it. I think that is perfect. That is perfect. So just going back a little bit, we're gonna rewind back to just kind of college and
Yeah.
like some of the summer programs you did in college and what
Mm-hmm.
kind of led up to your gap year as well.
Right. Okay. So in college, the beginning half of my college, I played volleyball. I was on volleyball scholarship. So that took up a lot of my time. I stopped playing volleyball my sophomore year and was able to use that extra free time to focus on my studies. And so I was a GlaxoSmithKline Women in Science Scholar. So there were some things like conferences and things I attended during the summertime with them. I did research during the summer. One year, I think my favorite summer spent was going into my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I participated in was accepted into the MED program at UNC Chapel Hill. And that's like a 9-week program. We took first year medical school courses, like a semester pushed into nine weeks. So I don't
Nice.
know if I said 9 year. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
9-week program. I think I said 9 year. But that was intense. It was intense. It was tough. But during that program, I was able to we went in cadaver lab. We got different panel discussions. It was like 50 of us. We stayed on UNC's campus. So I absolutely loved that. My goal, like every summer, was to try and get exposure some way or another in the weeks that I had, because I also was an RA my last 2 years of college. So I had to go back a little bit earlier. Summers were really, really well spent though. As far as my gap year, once I graduated, I took my first time taking the MCAT was a few months after I graduated, and I didn't do as well as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of led, that was where that became that involuntary gap year.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was like, okay, I have to take more time, study for my MCAT again. And so I moved from Greensboro back home just to save money and just come back to Atlanta. And so that was the kind of start of my gap year. I didn't score well in my MCAT, and I needed to take more time to study.
Okay. Now going to MCAT. So y'all know I took my MCAT several of times. Okay.
Honey.
So go ahead and let's help the people out. Do you mind sharing with them kind of your journey with the MCAT and what that looked like?
Yes. Okay. We connected through our MCAT journey because mine is a lot similar to yours.
Yes.
Ooh, that MCAT. Ooh,
baby girl.
yes. My MCAT journey was a long one. Okay. I took my first. I actually, believe it or not, I lost count of how many times I did the MCAT. But the first time I did the MCAT, I know was right after I graduated from undergrad. And then I took it like 2 times during my gap year. I took it after, and then after like both of my master's programs, I think. And so, yeah, the MCAT was a humbling experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you took both MCATs at that.
I did.
Yeah.
I took the old MCAT, which was a 2-digit score, and then I took the new MCAT, which was a 3-digit score.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to sit for both. I felt like I just was at that point. I just knew the MCAT all too well. Yeah, my MCAT journey was a long one, but I do believe that God used my MCAT journey to get me to the different pit stops, if you will, that I needed to go on. Like where I am now, and even through my journey to my medical school acceptance, I was able to see God use my MCAT to get me to different programs and getting me to meet with different people and learn different things. So while it was a long journey, as crazy as it may seem, if I had to go back and do it again, I wouldn't change a thing. I was grateful that was like my MCAT and not necessarily like my GPA. So that was fine. It was my MCAT that I just kept, not being able to get for quite some time. So I went through multiple prep programs,
You mind
Kaplan,
sharing a couple?
Prince. Yeah, I did Princeton Review. I took an online Kaplan class, took an in-person Kaplan class this most recent time. I used Next Step, Exam Crackers, and then Altius Test Prep. I was utilizing them this last time that I thought I had to take the MCAT before in the midst of me getting my medical school acceptance letter. So some were paid for like through the school. Some I spent money on to do. I was able to see a lot of pros and cons for all of them. I guess my top ones, I really, really like Altius. It was super expensive, but during COVID, I was able to get a huge discount. It's like 70% off. So praise God for that.
Yeah.
And then Exam Crackers was very condensed. I did like that. So I was able to, like, over the years kind of pick and choose, like, oh, I kind of like this. I like what they did with that. And then like advice of other people that I talked to kind of helped navigate me to certain things. So I had a personal tutor once that lived in California. We used Google, Skype, whatever. Before. So I have done it all with the MCAT, honey. I'm just glad it's over with. Yeah.
Me too. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad it is over with as well.
Yes.
I will
Ooh.
say, just overall, just knowing her as well as I do, like, this is truly a woman of faith, because although I'm sure there were many naysayers along the way and people saying, well, you might want to do something else, or this might not be it for you, or you still gonna take the MCAT again another time.
Come on, come on now.
And when I tell you, she has not given up. I mean, from the beginning, from the time that I met her, she has always been true to what God has placed on her, and she has truly known her purpose. And I know it's been some ups and some downs, some tears cried, some moments of laughter, but she has persevered. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit, like, how has your faith played a role in your journey?
Yes. Give me a signal if I start taking too long on this question, because this is one that
we need to hear a word. Okay, Lord, use it, Lord.
As far as my faith, so like when I grew up in church, always, but when I went to college, I had a hard time getting grounded, because I was like, oh, I miss my church here in Atlanta, and I couldn't really find a church in Greensboro. So my undergrad years, my faith was kind of all over the place because it just wasn't consistent. I was too busy being an undergrad, partying, hanging out, doing all this other stuff. So when it came down to Sunday, I was like, oh, a little tired, whatever. So my faith in undergrad was the most shaky it's ever been. And then when I moved back here to Atlanta, it started I got plugged back in with like connect groups and that sort of thing. So it started to get its upward trend during the start of my gap years. And then when I went to Hampton to complete my first master's program, that was probably like where it all kind of jump started, because for one, I didn't think I needed a master's program. And I was like, oh, I don't need no master's program. I'm just gonna study for my MCAT and then, start school, and that's gonna be the end of that. But I had a meeting with a dean, and he was like, you need to really look into master's programs just to kind of get you back in the classroom, get you some upper level, get you an upper level graduate GPA, since you are having trouble with your MCAT. So I applied to several programs: Morehouse, South Carolina, Drexel, Hampton. At the last minute, I applied to Hampton actually, and a few others. So I got into all the programs I applied to. And I just felt like God was sending me to Hampton. And like I said, it was the very last program I applied to. One of my professors who did a letter of recommendation for me was like, oh, you need to look into this program. And I'm just like, that's not what I really wanted. My plan was a master's program that was connected to a medical school. It was just 1 year. So the Hampton program was everything against that. It was 2 years. It was not connected to a medical school. And so, but the order in which it happened. So Hampton was the first school that I interviewed for. And it was an in-person interview. So my mom was like, you got to fly. You know, my mom wasn't really for it because at first she was just like, well, same thing. It's 2 years. It's not connected to a medical school. But I went up, did the interview, and I really liked it. It was just that it was kind of a sense of belonging. I met some great people during my interview, and I just was like, I kind of had peace about that program. And I was just like, okay, I think this is it. This is not what I wanted, but I think this is where I'm supposed to be. And so came back to Atlanta, had other interviews, did my Morehouse interview, and I got accepted into Hampton before I got to Morehouse, because Morehouse was really the program I really wanted to do. So I just was like, okay, like I just felt like God, like you need to go to Hampton, you need to go to Hampton. So I was driving up to Hampton to do my like apartment hunting, see what I could find. And on my drive up to Virginia, I got my Morehouse acceptance letter. And so I was like, okay, God, you would give me this acceptance letter.
No sense of humor.
Exactly. I just was like, okay. So I like talked to my mom about it. And my mom was just at first like, you know, you could just do more houses here in Atlanta. You could stay at home. Like we don't have any family in Virginia. You got to get all this stuff. And I agreed, but I just was like, in this moment, I have to be obedient to God. This is like, he's giving me this desire for a reason. So, you know, it's one of those things where in that situation, like God was here, my mom was here. Like, yes, I wanted to be obedient, but I knew what God was telling me. So I moved to Hampton. The church I started attending was amazing. I immediately got plugged in because I felt like God telling me to serve more at my whatever church I went to. I knew I wanted to start serving more. So get plugged into my new church. Absolutely love it. I start serving with the students in high school, to be exact. And just through that, I got connected with the Connect group. Like I really was plugged in with my church. I loved it. And my relationship with God skyrocketed. It was just amazing. Just the people that I was meeting and just through connecting with others and through my serving, through me tithing faithfully, all of that stuff. It was just like, it all made sense. So during that time, I mean, even my mom like noticed the growth, and she was like, above all else, like, I'm happy about your growth in your relationship. Like, I know I didn't understand that at first, but my mom understood that it was bigger than what it seemed like face value. So during that time, again, I just continued in my serving. I was very at peace. My program wasn't what I thought it was going to be. No shade, but it just wasn't. The program is doing much better now, but it just wasn't everything I needed it to be at that time. But through that, I realized that God had me there for my growth in my relationship with him more than anything. He opened so many amazing doors. I was able to take one of my classmates and I, we went to Jamaica for a health missions trip. I was volunteering at a free clinic doing auditing, which was something I didn't think I wanted to do, but seeing the backside of free clinic, absolutely loved it. I was involved. I had leadership in SNMA. I was doing a lot of stuff with Howard's SNMA chapter. It was just right up the road. So I was just like flourishing in my relationship with God and my faith, and then also in like the preparation leading up to me becoming a medical student. And so it was in that moment during my years that I was able to look back and say, like, God, I see exactly why you sent me to Hampton. And I was so glad that I was obedient to him in that moment, because again, it didn't look like my plan, but again, like that was God showing me that his plans are always better. And I think that set me up that was a faith builder in so many different ways, because it allowed me to, in other very vital steps that he had for me afterwards, I was able to be obedient with no second guessing, because I saw what he did in that first time. And so it was like, okay, God, if I make a plan, you have another plan, I'm gonna trust you. So when it was time for me to do the second master's at Meharry, and the first year that they like emailed me about it, I was like, I just was graduating from Hampton. I was like, I don't need to do no another master's program. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this. Like, I just didn't have the desire for it at all. Did not get in. And it's also invitation only. So I had to apply to their medical school, get rejected, and then get considered for the MHS program. So then in 2019, when I applied again, and then they mentioned it, God started working on my heart. And he gave me that desire for that program. So when I got accepted, and it was time for me to move, I wasn't even thinking about this is another master's program. I got to move all the way to Nashville from Virginia. I just thought about what God did for me before in my journey from Atlanta to Hampton, and what I knew he could do again by me being obedient and going to Nashville and doing that program again, and not thinking about the negatives. It was me shifting my perspective and trusting and believing in God and having the faith that if he opened that door, it was good. You know, I was set on through my like SNMA stuff. I was like, oh, I want to go to Howard. I want to go to Howard. I want to go to Howard.
I remember.
And that door, you remember?
Yes.
I was gun ho. I had my pictures from the medical school. I just knew that's where I wanted to go. But again, I said that's where I wanted to go. So when I kept trying to open that door on my own and God wasn't allowing me to open it, at the time I didn't see that was protection, because that's not where I was supposed to be. And so I could have easily stayed in Virginia and continued to apply to Howard. But then that would have been me trying to play God and do things on my own. And so I immediately, no brainer, packed up, moved to Nashville. And so here I am now, looking back and being grateful for my obedience. My medical school acceptance, I can't take any credit for it. It was all God. I can just take credit for the obedience that I'm grateful that I was able to have. And so it was through these low moments in these journeys, through me seeing classmate after classmate pass me. I have classmates from A&T that I studied with, that I was close with, one just finished dental school, one is a resident, one just graduated medical school, like all these people, I'm just getting started. And so it was God and my faith and me staying connected to him through those low moments that kept me on the journey, and not listening to naysayers or not getting in my own head. And so, yeah, from 2016 up until now, over these last 4 years, it's just been exponential growth. But again, it was through those low moments, it was through those closed doors, it was through those no's, that I was able to build my endurance and build my faith. And so I'm grateful for my road that looks like this.
Yes,
to get to medical school.
You don't never go like this, right? What is that?
I don't want to go. I don't want to do that. I don't even know what that is. Yeah. So it was. I mean, yeah. In a nutshell, yeah, that was.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you mentioned the low moments, because I feel like a lot of times, when you are walking in faith, a lot of times people don't realize, like, walking in faith is not an easy walk. It's not like,
no,
I'm
ma'am.
not going to go through anything. Me saying I trust God does not mean that, we're not going to have some trials and tribulations along the way. And so I think it's really important that you were able to recognize the wonderful things that you were able to learn in those lessons, because there was a lot of lessons that you learned.
Oh yes,
yes. And so
it was a lot. That's very important.
Yeah. And so, like, as far as like those low moments, because I think those are important to hear, because a lot of times we get the highlight reels of like how people are doing and how they got there, and I studied and got there, and I'm like, no, it take a lot more grit than that.
Yeah.
Like, can you tell us about a moment where you were just felt broken and felt like where maybe you questioned your journey, or just was kind of upset? Like, did you have any moments where you were upset with God and just wanted more clarity?
Most definitely. I had a lot of those moments. It's hard to put my finger on just one. I think more so in terms of general, I think it was just me feeling like I was constantly, I got to a point where I started to feel like I was overlooked. I graduated from A&T in 2012. I'm starting medical school in 2020. I'm 29. I'll be 30 years old next month. And so it was just those years of me being out of school. I mean, it's been 8 years since I graduated undergrad. And I thought I would be, in my book, I would be I have MD behind my name. I'm being resident right now in 2020, all this stuff. So I think it was just that feeling of God slowly like beating down my plans and what I thought I wanted. And having, like I said, classmate after classmate, person I know after person I know just passed me. Just kind of made me like, God, like, hey, remember me? You gave me this plan, and I trusted you, and I don't see the plan like
Where's
being
my
played
fruit?
out.
Where's
What?
my
Yeah,
fruit?
like I just feel like, yeah. And so it was a lot. It was a lot of that over the years. I mean, I can see myself now checking my Mcat score, just falling out on the floor, just upset. Like, what happened? And so I think just like having to take the Mcat over and over again, just having again, I think I got to a place where I was so used to saying like, oh, hey, so-and-so, or Morgan, how you doing? I'm good, applying to medical school, getting ready to go to medical school, getting ready to go to medical school every single year. And so I just got to a place where I just was like, God, like, when is this going to end? I think it was during that time after I finished my first master's program and didn't get in. I had to sit for the MCAT again. It was just like a whirlwind of that, like, I don't know what else to do. I took this test a million times. I feel like I can't overcome this exam. My application looks phenomenal. This is the only thorn in my application. And I wanted God to take that thorn, and no, he was like, no, I need you to keep this. I need you to remember me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to think you can do this on your own. And so that just continued. It was just so many different things that it was that constant reminder sometimes of you're still a pre-medical student. I mean, I was very involved with SNMA, AMEC after AMEC after AMEC. I'm in the pre-medical side. I have classmates again that I'm seeing that are medical students. And here I am going to the pre-medical luncheon, going to the pre-medical, whatever. I was telling one of my mentors right after I got in, I was like, I could finally go to an AMEC and be a medical student. Like, oh my
Yes.
gosh. So it's just, it was just those things after things after things that just kind of kept, Band-Aid just kind of kept getting ripped off. But
Mm-hmm.
it was like, even though God was keeping me humble and I felt like his plan wasn't working, I had to have that perspective shift where I stopped looking at what I did not have and I had to focus on what I had. I had to shift and not want to have all the answers. I think as humans, we like, God, like, let me know your plan and everything I'm gonna have to do, and then I'm gonna jump on board. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
want to know what I need to do first. And
Right.
so I feel like if God would have told me that I would have went through all this stuff for 8 years, I would have been like, oh nah, bro, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna go do something else.
That's the
you
truth,
want me
right?
to you want me to do all that? Nah, I think I'm gonna, yeah. So I think it was that perspective shift when I started changing my mindset and how I looked at things, how I looked at the obstacles, how I looked at the hurdles. My low moments kind of then started to catch up, and I didn't see it as a low moment anymore. I saw it as God's plan. I saw it as an opportunity for growth. I saw it as an opportunity to connect with others. I saw it as an opportunity to take my focus off of myself and put it into others and start pouring into other people around me. I connected with so many people through my MCAT journey and through these obstacles and struggles. And so it was when I shifted my mindset and allowed God to renew my mind that I started coasting. Like, I was at peace. I didn't, even now, like, if I had to retake my MCAT, if I had to start medical school next year, I was okay with that because God had built my faith up to a level at this point where I had given it to him. I had surrendered. I like, hey, I'm not trying to do this myself anymore. I don't know all the answers. God, I'm gonna let you be God.
You got
And
it.
so it was me. Yeah. So I had to be in a position where I kept my hands open to him and didn't keep that closed fist so he could take out desires and give me other ones to get me to where it was that he needed me to be. So that was very important to me. So yeah, it's yeah.
Okay.
Long answer, but yeah, that was
No, it
that
was
was
a beautiful
it.
answer, and I think it was a much needed answer, especially for a lot of my supporters on my channel. I know a lot
Mm,
of times they also struggle, with faith and like, okay, but when,
yeah.
and
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
hardest thing is like when, like even if we know a plan, it's just like, but when, I've been doing this
Mhm.
for this
Mhm.
long, but when, and I
Mm.
think that that's why I'm like, I have to have you on my channel. You are, you
Yeah,
are,
and that
you are a
reminds me.
necessity. You are a necessity.
I appreciate it. The you mentioning but when as I'm in a little over my first month of medical school, I'm able to look back and see what God was doing through my previous master's programs, through my previous seasons that allowed me to get to medical school in his timing. I've learned the importance. Like I've said it before, like, okay, like I know in God's timing. I said that to myself during to kind of keep me going.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm in his timing, and I see the importance of the win, even though it's a pandemic and I'm doing medical school online right
Mm-hmm.
now, there's so many different lessons and things that I was able to learn and add to my foundation up until this point that's helping me to not be stressed out, not be, not sleeping and eating and not being able to enjoy medical school. So I'm so grateful that I allowed God to have his own win
Mm-hmm.
because it's allowed me to win, WIN, in this moment through my trusting in his timing. God's timing is that's a whole nother story.
Okay, no,
You have
I'm
to
with you. I am with you, and
you
I
have
love
to
it. I
trust his
love it.
timing. Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to.
and I know. I just want to mention you have recommended a book
Got it right
recently.
here.
Look, mine is over here. I ain't gonna go grab it. Go ahead,
Yeah.
tell people exactly. So it's called Detours, and
Yes.
it's by Tony Evans. And I
Oh my
encourage you all
gosh.
to get this book.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about how this book has helped even more with perspective in
Oh
your own
man.
journey?
Yes. And so this is, I think, this is the highlights of like God showing me his face even through my low moments. It was after I did not do well on a couple MCATs ago. I didn't do well. Um my she is like my Bible study leader, and I'm sorry, my Sunday school leader, when I was in high school, and she's like my sister slash auntie, what have you. But she just finished PA school, and she during a moment of her detour, she like started reading this book, and so my mom got it for me during one of my low MCAT moments, and I hadn't read it until I started it, and then I stopped it, and then when I was coming home, I brought it back in March, and I was like, let me start this book over and reread it during my season of waiting, and it like was phenomenal.
Yes.
So Tony Evans is talking all about Joseph and how Joseph went through his pits, basically Joseph from the pit to the palace. And so I was able to connect with this book on so many different levels. I was so grateful. Like I was constantly like highlighting every like all highlights, multiple
Yes.
colors.
I got my little
And
journal. I just was writing. Just
it's
writing in my
so
journal.
good. So basically, it's detours the unpredictable path to your destiny. And so he in the book is breaking down the purpose of detours, the pain, the pattern, the proof of detours, the plan, the part, and the pleasure, all these different P's in relation to detours, but it's all from the perspective of Joseph. And me reading this book gave me so much insight. It made me trust God's plan even more to see Joseph go through everything he went through. Like, man, your brothers tried to kill you, you got sold off, you was in jail, like all this stuff. And he went through all these things. But it was all for him to get to the palace in God's timing and in God's purpose. And so this book, I was able to relate so many things to my medical school journey in this moment of waiting. He touches on so many things. And it was in my season that this book just touched me. And I felt like God telling me to bless others with this book the way I was blessed with this book. And so in my conversation with different friends, people that I know, I started sending this book to people that I knew who were having those huge moments of detours. And so it's been really good to be able to share and see God work through this. I started his Bible study on detours. I did a Bible plan on detours, like everything, just because I was able to connect so much with Joseph. And so it was a blessing to see me get to my palace a little bit after reading this book in the midst of pandemic, like just all this other stuff, just to be able to see God's timing. So I highly recommend
Yes.
reading
And
this book. It's just
I
a
didn't,
perspective shift. It's so good.
yes, I've already then got copies and been mailing them out to friends. So
Yes,
yeah, so I
it's
loved it.
so
Thank you for the
good.
recommendation.
Yes,
It
of
was a
course.
phenomenal book.
Oh my
Phenomenal book.
gosh, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah. So
Yes.
that was blessing. Again, I had the book, but I read it exactly when I was supposed to read
Yes, I
it.
love that. So are there any like affirmations or like scriptures that have kind of carried you on
Oh
this
yes.
journey?
Yes. I would definitely say Romans 8:28. All
Hmm.
things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. That got me through a lot, just like those low moments, those moments of uncertainty. I just was like, God, I know you're gonna work all this together for my good. And so I just been praying that for years and years and years. So to be able to see that come to fruition is a huge blessing. Um, Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge me, and he will direct your path. So that um, got me through as well. Just trusting God when I didn't understand. Not
Yeah, I'm so sorry. We was getting good into the word, and my internet just wanted to disrespect me. You see how the enemy
done
works? You know what I mean?
every
Like he's just
time.
trying
Won't
to
he do
prevent this
it?
word from coming out today. But that's okay. We back
Exactly.
on. We back on. So I know
Yes,
you were
ma'am.
giving us the scripture. You had
Yes. So, yep. So Romans 8:28, Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, Jeremiah 29:11. I didn't mention that one, but I was saying how much I enjoy watching sermons. And that was something that also carried me through. Not only, getting that good sermon on Sunday and,
mhm.
doing my devos during the week, but having sermons throughout the week definitely continue to keep me full. And so it was during the start of my master's program, Pastor Michael Todd came out with the Crazy Face series, which like
Was it not the bomb though? Was
whew,
it not
yes,
the bomb?
oh my gosh, that very first one when he got the keys, I
Yes.
was like, that had me in tears. Just to see, you write something down, God tell you a plan, and to see it finally come through, something that seems crazy to everybody else. So me kind of building upon that really got me through. It's interesting enough, in December 2019, when I was studying for my last time I was taking the MCAT, I wrote all these affirmations on my mirror. I wrote the verses I just told you. I wrote some verses from Waymaker. I just wrote, my first and last name, and then class of 2024. I wrote, hello, my name is student Dr. Everhart. I'm in Wayne, I'm a Harry. I just wrote all these things on my mirror. I wrote God is bigger than the MCAT, and this is my final lap. Because I actually took my first MCAT in 2013. This is now 2020. This is year number 7 as far as my MCAT is concerned. Or just not my MCATs. I didn't take one for 7 years, but just like the start of me, graduating and trying to get in all that stuff. So just this is my 7th lap, and all these things on my mirror, and I still have it there now. And so to go back and see, that I am in the class of 2024, that I am an M1 at Meharry, just through writing those things down, speaking into existence. Leaving my house in March to come to Atlanta, that had been up for a few months at that point, and then to walk back into my house, when I went to check on my apartment and see that on my mirror and see that it's now a reality, just did something for me.
Yeah.
So that, was good. And then Pastor Michael Todd did another series that where he talked all about Joseph. I think it was his relationship goals series, kind of towards the beginning.
Hmm.
Like the first half of relationship goals, he talked all about Joseph. And it was just after I had finished reading Detours. I wasn't even in medical school yet, and I just was like, okay, I'm hearing Joseph over and over and over again. And so just, staying in the word, connect groups, my mom and other family people, prayer, all of that stuff kind of worked together, and that affirmed me. I have, really good friends, who affirmed me during this moment and keep in touch with people. You have inspired me from the beginning. So just, yeah. So, I mean, God has just, again, through through my detours and through my time of delay, has given me everything I needed and more to be able to get me up into this point. And so I'm just grateful, blessed,
Yes.
and I'm glad I, are using the eyes and ears that God has given me to be able to see how all of this has worked together for my good. So yeah, I think that's very important. You have those moments where you kind of like fall off the wagon, or you know upset, but you have to continue. I remember one time I checked my Mcat score. I didn't get what I needed. I was already going to church that night. Yes, it would have been easy to sit on my couch and cry or whatever, but I still went to church. I cried the whole time, but I still was there. I still was faithful. I knew what I needed in that moment to keep me grounded and keep me to continue on the path and not give up. It would have been so much easier to do something else. Not continue to take the MCAT, not continue to, can't tell you how many times I applied to medical school. But it was, me knowing that God had a plan for me, and I knew that He was continuously opening doors and showing me that, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I know if this was not my path, God would have clearly showed me that. He would have closed all kinds of doors. I would have known that this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, because there were times that I was just like, am I supposed to be a doctor? Am I supposed to be doing something else? Like, I don't know. But it was God continuously opening doors, having people affirm that for me, having people pray over me, all these different opportunities that He continued to give me. That was that moment of God saying, like, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. It's just not time yet.
Right.
I'm doing something else in you right now to get you to where you're supposed to be. I had to remind myself, God isn't in the business of embarrassing His children. We are His image. We're His reflection. So God's not out here to I knew He wasn't out to embarrass me, even though sometimes I felt embarrassed saying, yeah, I'm still trying to get to medical school. Yep. That's still, yep. you know, so it was in those moments that I was able to see Him continuously say, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I just need you to trust me. Trust my timing. And so I'm glad that I did, because I can see how, I had all these medical schools I thought I wanted to go to over the years, and then He slowly began to give me the right desire and get me to where I was supposed to be. So even when it gets tough, you just have to continue to keep believing, even in those moments where you feel like you want to give up or you feel like it's hard to believe. You still have to keep going, because that's definitely what got me through. Yeah.
So I think you hit on it. That was kind of my next question, was just kind of what advice would you give to someone who is delayed in their journey right now, and who's feeling discouraged and who doesn't have the best support system? What would you really tell them in that moment, in those low moments for them in their journey?
I think my best advice would be to trust the process. I know oftentimes it may feel difficult. You just have to trust God and trust the process, and you have to continue to do like what's in front of you. That's something I had to learn. Like, let me not try and, yes, it's great to plan, and yes, it's great to have an idea of what you want to do, or where you feel like you should go, but you have to be in tune with God enough to be able to know what direction He's leading you in, and be able to trust that process and know that His plans for you are good, and allow Him to order your steps. Because if you sit in the detour moment, or if you sit in the pit too long, it'll mess you up. So I had to learn to trust the process, trust what God was doing, trust where He was leading me. And that really got me through. That helped me out a lot. Because I see now, if it had went my way, the plan that I wanted to have, the way I wanted to do it, I would have been up the creek without a paddle. I would have been not prepared for medical school. I would have not had the network and the support and the mentors and everything. Because through my journey that I thought was taking forever, God just gave me so much foundation, so many people, such a huge support system. I wouldn't be the student, the leader, the mentor, all these things that I am today if it wasn't for the journey and the process that God continued to put me on. It was tough. Yes, blood, sweat, tears, all that.
Yes.
but me trusting that process allowed me to have the setup for the best situation. Because I could have before did things or used my network and called and made this phone call and talk to this person. Can you do this for me? And I just couldn't. I had to trust the process. Even leading up to my recent acceptance, I had to trust that process. I, had classmates that were interviewing before me and, all these other things. And I had to trust the process. I didn't, make this phone call this person, do this, try and rush the process. But I had to trust God's timing. And so I think that would be my biggest advice. There's a lot that obviously goes into trusting that process and how to do that. But overall, you just got to trust the process. If you have that deep, if you're having that detour moment, if you don't have a huge support system, I know that's what to say. Talking about doing what's in front of you. I got off track. Being obedient to what God, being obedient to what God has in front of you would be my second part of trusting the process. So when I was in my master's programs, I embraced them. That's how I, was able to do free clinic and how I was able to go to Jamaica and all this. I embraced that detour. I didn't just say like, oh, I'm in this master's program, I don't really need this. My GPA is fine. I don't need to be here. Like all this negative Nancy. And it's like, no, God, you open this door for me. I'm going to embrace this, embrace the process. I'm going to be obedient to what you have in front of me. And through that, I was able to get blessed in so many different ways. God was able to use me. He was able to grow me in so many different ways because I embraced what he had in front of me.
Yeah.
And so that also took my eyes off of what everybody else had going on, took my eyes off of what I didn't have, and I focused on what I did have. And so that allowed me to be grateful in the moment, appreciate where I was, and just be able to enjoy this time, this delay, be able to enjoy it. I don't see it as a dread. If I had to go back and do it all over again, I would do it again.
Yeah.
Just because I see what God did. I see the benefit of it. I'm grateful for the experience. And so that's my biggest, yes, again, trust the process and embrace where you are and be obedient to what God has in front of you. And that's it.
Well, I love it. I love it. So just where you are now, like I said, I know you mentioned you're in your first month of med school.
Yeah.
So just give the people a little update of what this quarantine med school life is like.
That's the other thing. Again, you have a plan of what you want to do. But if God wants you to do medical school in a quarantine, then that's just what's going to have to be.
Okay. He has a sense of humor.
Exactly. I'm telling you, every time I knew I wanted this, I'm like, God, I know I wanted to be in medical school, but not like this. Right. That's that answer prayer, but may not be always how you want it to look. Medical school. So I actually did a little bit of online schooling at the end of my semester in March, from March to like mid-April for my MHS program. And so I got a little taste of online school then. I like it. I'm a like in-person kind of person. I'm like hands-on. I like to be in the classroom where I can see the teacher physically. And so right now we're in our normal, routine. We're using Blackboard Collaborate, which is good because it's recorded and, it's live. So we can ask questions, whatever, get extra explanations, all that stuff. So that has been beneficial. Meeting my classmates for the first time, us communicating via GroupMe has been interesting. A lot of them I know, because a lot of my classmates are from my previous MHS program. So it's about like 55 of us out of 120-ish that did the master's program with me. So I knew all of them previously, but all those people that I don't know, that has been interesting, trying to get acclimated with people, virtually. So that has been interesting. It's been doable. Like I said, I haven't struggled as much as I thought I would have. It just takes a lot, especially like at I'm not on campus right now studying. When I go back to Nashville in a few weeks, I may or may not like go to the library or whatever. So that has been interesting. I think the hardest part, I think, will probably be like our principles and practices of medicine class, which is like our clinical skills.
Okay.
Trying to learn how to get a cardio
I'm like, what that look like?
You got professors trying to adjust their iPads and trying to see the mannequin. And so that has been a little bit difficult. My first like OSCE exam was with the standardized patient, obviously over Zoom. So it's giving us a little bit of like telehealth medicine in a way, but again,
that's getting the vibe I was getting.
I'm hands on, so I haven't, and we don't have any of our tools. So it's kind of trying to teach us how to use the otoscope and some of these other things. We will relearn these when we get back on campus. But the clinical part has been just a little bit difficult. And then you have the age gap of some of my professors who don't know how to use technology. So that's the other thing when we, we're in class sometimes like, click up here so you can see us, click do this. So, so that's been interesting. But I think we're all like learning together. Again, we want to practice safe. We want to be safe. We want to like not put, especially, having older professors, we don't want to force them to be in the classroom and they get sick, or I have classmates who are, compromised. Like, so those things like that, I'm just like, okay, like I understand. But I did not think, as long as I've been waiting to start medical school, that I was going to be starting in a pandemic. But I have adjusted. I mean, again, that's like me and all the other obstacles, adversity that I have faced before. Just learning to just be fluid and adjust and find ways to, we've made it work. We've had, like I said, FaceTime study sessions and all these other things. I'm grateful for technology for sure. Because it could have been way worse. So it's been interesting to say the least. It's been, even taking exams, you gotta take the exams with a proctor, you gotta have, we have to use Zoom and they got to make sure they see us and see our environment.
Wow.
And yes, yeah. So I'm still looking at my table over there for my quiz I took yesterday. Yeah, you have to put nothing on the table, one sheet of paper, show your environment, all of that. So just a little bit of adjusting. But obviously, it's not gonna last forever, prayerfully. So so that's been the interesting aspect of it. So I'm excited to get back to Nashville. Mahari is leading all of the COVID-19 testing facilities in Nashville. So on campus we have data entry stuff and other ways. So I'm excited to be able to get back and help out in the community in that regard. So yeah, medical school in a pandemic.
Oh,
White coat ceremony. We don't know when that's going to be yet. We were like, we don't want white coat ceremony virtually.
So I was going to say, are y'all going to do it virtually?
No, ma'am. So we're we're trying to just postpone it. I mean, I just had a virtual graduation, interesting enough, but I think we're going to see if we can get it postponed to next semester. As a class, we're all like, this is a very big moment. So we are okay waiting to do our white coat ceremony at a later date, so it could be better than virtual. I don't know how that might look like, but yeah, we're trying to get that postponed for now because I'm not really feeling that.
I know, because I know a lot of my friends graduated from med school this year, and I was at all the little online graduations.
I know. I'm trying to print out links.
They made it work, but it was definitely not ideal.
I know. Yeah. So I'm just like, I've been waiting on this white coat ceremony for a long time. Okay. So I am praying that we can get it postponed and I can have, even if it's just a couple family members there, because that's a big moment to be able to, celebrate that. So that will, so I'm excited. I haven't received it. We haven't received all of our details yet. So I know even it's still surreal that I'm in medical school, that I'm a medical student. It's slowly sinking in, but I think, starting medical school in the midst of a pandemic, obviously gonna make things different, so our orientation, we didn't have our breakfast and all these, things you're used to doing, and pictures and white coats and all these things. So it does make it feel it hasn't sunk in. And then in the midst, like I said, I've been working to this for so long. And so for it to finally be here, I was just like, so I don't have to study for my MCAT no more? Like, what?
Right.
Like that I was, so my body was trained to studying for the MCAT. So yeah, so that's still, so I know once I get my white coat, it will like slowly sink in. Or it will hit me then, because it's slowly sinking in now. But yeah, so yeah, online for now.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank
I
you for
love
having
you.
me.
I
love
honor
you
you.
too.
And I just want to say thank you so much for coming to speak. This is
Yes.
such a blessing. Your journey has been a blessing for me as well. I've been there. I'm not there anymore. I'm following the path that God has planned for me.
Yes, most definitely.
Yes, but I will say that, I just want to continue to encourage you. I definitely got through those preclinical years, so I know it's gonna have its up and down.
Yes.
For me, it was just like, oh, once I get to med school, I done arrived, and I'm like, whoo, getting in is hard, but staying your tail in there?
I know. Yeah, already it's just like, just like, oh, all this, just the things I study and how much I study in just 1 week. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna need to like real. So it's little stuff. I'm having to look. I'm looking into a standing desk, because I'm like, all this sitting down. I had a really intense week this week. I just left the house for the first time yesterday. I have been in the house since Sunday. So yeah, but no, I so appreciate you again. I'm grateful God allowed us to meet. You have encouraged and inspired me. I remember, your journey. I remember you getting into medical school. I remember where I was with that, and us being so excited about that. I remember where I was when I talked to you about your dismissal. So I honor you for, you could have easily been done with God, been done with everything, but you embraced what God was doing. You trusted him. You had faith. I honor you for this channel, and you still being able to encourage and inspire others, because I think the issue is so many people are struggling because not enough people are letting them know, like, hey, it's okay. You have all these people, especially when I started my journey. I feel like everybody took the MCAT 2 times and was done. So when I hit, 4, 5, I was like, okay, I feel like an outcast. And so I always told all my friends about you, because I'm like, I have a friend who I see that made it, and I know I can do it. And so even now, like your inspiration that you're giving others, and even us, this conversation, and you wanting to inspire and mentor and push other people, even in the midst of your detour, it is amazing. It speaks on your character. It speaks on your faith. And so I definitely thank you on behalf of everybody that's following you, including myself, and your channel. Like, I mean, you could have kept to yourself, went on about your business, not wanted to encourage and inspire. That's the easier thing to do, right? But I mean, having opportunities to reach out and pour into other people, it takes a special person. So again, thank you. I'm excited to see where you flourish and go to, as you continue on your journey in this channel and all of that. So yes, I love you dearly, and I'm glad we had this.
Yes, and just remember, take it one day at a time.
When
they say the fire hose, that's the truth. It is the truth. One day at a time. Do not neglect yourself. Do not neglect your sleep. Do not neglect your relationships, because some people, they get ghosted in med school, and that's what you don't do. So,
I know. Yeah, that's so true. That's the that balance is what I what I make sure I have. I take my time off. I make sure I sleep. I make sure I catch up with people. And so it's one of those things where you go hard, throughout the week, and on the weekends, like today, I'm not doing nothing. I've been watching TV, catching up, with people that I haven't texted back during the week. Like, my bad. So getting my friends and family acclimated. After Tuesday, you're not gonna hear from me again till Friday. And even like scheduling people in, like, okay, can you talk at this time? I mean, we scheduled this. So
exactly.
You have to just adjust. But yeah, most definitely the biggest advice I've gotten was schedule MCAT into your life. I mean, not, excuse me. See, I'm still talking about MCAT. Schedule medical school into your life. Do not schedule your life into medical.
Yes.
No. Schedule your life. No. schedule medical school into your life. Do not schedule your life into medical school. So just
Mm-hmm.
keeping that balance. I have been very attentive to making sure that I'm not all medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And just find that balance. It's so important. So I
important.
definitely one day at a time. You ain't
Mm-hmm.
lying, because that fire hydrant is on about 50%.
Okay,
I know
and that thing
it's
gonna keep
heating up.
rolling up.
It's heating up. Woo!
It's gonna
So,
keep rolling up. So
mm,
yes. Well, I love you,
I
and
love you too.
like I said, I'm here to support you. I'm only one
Yes,
small slave.
and I've been calling.
Yeah.
Yep, texting. Yes.
If you need anything, I got you. If I ain't
Yes,
got it, I'll be
ma'am.
the resource that got it. So
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
yes. Well, I hope you enjoy the
Yes.
rest of your day.
Thank
Get
you.
you
You
some
as
rest.
well.
Catch up with the rest of
Yes.
your folks.
Yes, I know, right?
Right. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am. Well, we'll talk soon.
Yes, we will. And then I'll let
Yes.
you know if you guys have any questions for Morgan. I will get them over
Most
to
definitely.
her. And so
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Y'all definitely, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm not as active. I took like 2 years off of social media. I'm not getting back on social media till I get into medical school. Like, let me focus on myself. But I am kind of slowly starting to trickle back on there. So Instagram, Dr.morg_.
And I put that on the edit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so they can contact me there. Like I said, I'm slowly getting back on, but
And it's okay. I've been off since med school. When I got to med school in 2015, I actually got off of all my social. I ain't been on
I kind of don't have time.
I'm gonna get my life back in order though.
I know, right? It's time consuming. It's time
consuming.
consuming.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So, balancing that too. So
okay.
yes.
Well, you enjoy your weekend. It was good chatting with you.
All right. Well, I love you.
Love you too. Bye.
All right. Bye.